We continue our conversation this week with Sean Stephenson. Make sure to head over to podcast.getleverage.com for this week's cheat sheet, outlining the top 3 tools you can start using today and start turning pain into success.
Number 1, you need impeccable self-care. You need impeccable self-care. What does that mean? It means you better find out your rituals that help you relieve the pressure, because everybody's got pressure within them. Pressure, and as my buddy Alex calls it, pressure and noise causes pain. And, or let me say, pressure and noise accentuates the pain. It doesn't really necessarily cause it, but accentuates the pain. And something like procrastination, when we check our Facebook feed continually, habitually, when we're surfing the internet mindlessly, when we're just making all the side errands that we don't need to be doing, it's not because we're lazy. It's because we're stressed. And so we're procrastinating to relieve the pressure from within us. And so when I'm teaching people about impeccable self-care, what I'm saying is release the pressure at the beginning of the day so that you can handle the pressure that is waiting for you. Second thing is, you need to be aligned. You need to be aligned with your life purpose. Because when you get aligned with life purpose, then you get to tap into God's caffeine. I don't even care if you're an atheist. Call it whatever you want, your greatest energetic frequency. You can do whatever you want to do, say whatever you want to say, but I call it God's caffeine because it is this incredible amount of adrenaline that pops your eyes open in the morning, puts a smile on your face, rolls you out of bed, and gets you going. I have a ton of God's caffeine circulating through my veins every day because I'm aligned with my life purpose. And my life purpose is to rid this world of insecurity. And now I figured out the next layer, the next level of my evolution is comedy, making people laugh and deal with their insecurities by kind of poking fun at them in a way that they feel safe so that they can see how silly their own insecurities are. And because I'm aligned with that life purpose, I get this ton of energy. I'm not having to do coffee. I'm not having to take energy drinks. I'm not having to do the drugs to keep me up. And that life purpose, that will push you. And so you might be like, well, Sean, I don't know what my life purpose is. That's okay. This is just one question you have to ask yourself continuously. Why were you born? Why were you born? Keep asking yourself that. Write in your journal. See, why were you born? I was born to rid this world of insecurity. And I found that because one of my mentors, I was taking a ride with him and he said, Sean, why were you born? And I was like, because my parents had sex? I don't know. And he's like, no, dude, why were you born? And then I was like, to rid this world of insecurity. And he said, bingo. Because if anybody were to be on this planet as a messenger that we would all listen to about insecurity, it would be somebody who would probably have the ability to have the most insecurities, but if he had the least, we would listen. And that's why you're in this container, Sean. And I agree. I personally, and you could call me delusional, and I'm okay with that. I've been called delusional. I'm okay with being called whatever people want to call me, but I believe that I chose this container before I got here because I couldn't do my life mission without it. And so you got to find, why were you born? What were you made to do on this planet? And the way you even do it is different than anybody else can do it. And then the last thing, because I promised you 3, is you need an empowering environment. You need to remove anything that could derail your destiny. Any negativity, any person, any energy drainer, any behavioral choice, any place that you live or what you're driving or where you're going to work or what you're doing for work. You need to eliminate anything that is going to derail your destiny. If you have to divorce your friends, your family, if you have to go on this road all by yourself for a while, that may be what you have to do. Now, I'm not telling you to go burn down the house and like say, screw my old life. No, I'm saying be smart about this. But really think about like who do you surround yourself with? If you hang out with even one person that makes fun of your dreams, they are derailing your destiny. I had this person in my life. They were I want to just out of respect for their privacy, I won't mention any details, but this person I used to have as a service provider in my life. And this was a very nice person, but they would make little comical jabs about some of the things that I was working on and how I felt about myself and my dreams and where I was headed. And it was totally a projection on their part, but I knew that's it. That's it. I can't have this anymore. And I knew that when I tried to make some corrective enhancements and say, you know what, I asked that you not do that. And they were like, well, I was just kidding. I'm only kidding. Well, look, if I can't correctively change a behavior, then I need to move on. And I don't let anybody into my life that is a drainer, a destroyer, or a distractor. They got to go. And sometimes that means crying my fucking eyes out as I say goodbye to somebody I love. But you better believe the only thing that's going to stop me from my destiny is the Grim Reaper. And you know what? I'm giving that one a run for their money right now.
Wow, I have like literally goosebumps. It's the first time on a podcast I'm getting goosebumps from the person I'm interviewing. This is awesome.
Thank you.
So you mentioned inspiration from mentors a couple times now. Who are your mentors? And are they, who have been your mentors and your idols? Throughout your life.
Yeah, so this is huge for me. I love talking about my mentors. I would not be the man I am without them. I have 21, so I'm not going to list all of them. And they've changed over the years. I've rotated people in and people out because people evolve. And I learn enough. Sometimes from one person, I got what I needed and it's time to move on. Sometimes there are going to be people that are going to be with me to the very end. But a few of them I'm happy to talk about. Tony Robbins, when I was 19 years old, came into my life, and I would not be the man I am without him. He literally, I believe, saved my life physically. He introduced me to a world of health and nutrition and empowering psychology. He carried me across fire one night. He introduced me to a world of public speaking and giving back and taking your lessons and sharing them into the planet. And I don't think there's been ever in our current day and age a speaker more powerful or more influential than Tony Robbins.
And it's funny you mentioned him. I have such a high respect for him. Some people, it might not be their cup of tea, some of the stuff he does in his conferences, but I also had the pleasure and opportunity to know him a bit and work with him a bit. And he is such an incredible human being. What I'm most impressed with him is that he, no matter how famous or big he's gotten, he is a student at heart. And I had the opportunity to speak with him and a few others, and he by far needed me the least. And he was by far the one that took the most notes and paid the most attention.
Awesome. Yeah. And, I can't say that I can relate or align with every single thing that he does. And I don't think you should ever find somebody who you're 100% in alignment with, because then that's not you, right? So that's okay. You're going to be introduced to a lot of things that you may not click with 100%, and that's fine. But like if I tried to live my life the way Tony lives his, I'd be dead, because my adrenals couldn't handle it. My bones couldn't handle it. I am in awe of the machine that he is. He is literally a Terminator. It's amazing. So let me share a couple other people. Joe Polish, who I know you know as well. Joe showed up in my life when I was, gosh, how long ago? I think we're going on 2000. We're probably 12 years ago. And I couldn't have dreamt up a better mentor. And what I mean by that is, by no means is he the most focused. By no means,
We both know
right?
that.
Yeah. By no means is he got the skill sets in every area of his life dialed in perfectly, and he admits that. But there's very few, if anyone, that I've ever met as skilled at gaining rapport with people. And I've worked for Bill Clinton. I have worked and hung out with the Dalai Lama. I've hung out with Tony Robbins. And I honestly think that Joe Polish is one of the best at developing rapport. He's also the best at breaking rapport, too. And so he has both skill sets, polarizing and combining. But Joe is everything I ever wanted in a mentor. He's actually put his arm around me physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, intellectually. He has literally lifted me off the ground multiple times when I felt like I couldn't go on. And he has challenged me. He has pushed me harder than almost everybody, excluding my wife. And I love my wife for what she's done. But Joe has introduced me to people that I could have spent my whole life trying to get on their radar and never pulled it off. And Joe has made me a confidant and a friend. I can call up Joe any time of day. I can send him a text, send him an audio message. And I know this isn't special to me. I know there's a lot of people that can do this, but Joe drops everything for me, and I drop everything for Joe. So Joe is one of the three people I want to mention here. I'm going to say four. The next mentor would be Eben Pagan, and he has taught me so much about the mind and focus and concentration and developing self-discipline and financial development and human sexuality, how to attract somebody of the opposite sex. There's no doubt I would not be married if it wasn't from learning from Eben Pagan and everything he taught in his Double Your Dating brand. And he has made me a confidant and a friend. And if I call him, I won't hear from him for months. But that's because he's a weirdo introvert. But I know that when he finally does get back to me, it's going to be awesome. And I've learned so much. He introduced me to Joe Polish, so I'm super grateful for that. But the last mentor is my wife, Mindy Kniss. And Mindy, one of the million reasons why I married this woman is she's incapable of seeing my disability. And I don't mean that in like, oh, she sees past it. No, she sees it. She looks right at it and she stares and sees all of it, but then stares piercingly through to my soul and challenges me as if I had no limitations. And she pushes me harder than anyone I've ever met. She has had the biggest influence on me. Before her, it was my parents, but now she has had the biggest influence of any human being on my life. She is the greatest coach that I've ever seen. I married her because I couldn't afford her rates for as long as I wanted. And, marrying somebody who is just a fountain of wisdom is a gift. And I will have an idea. I will bounce it off my wife, Mindy, and Mindy will tell me how to do something that I was going to do in 12 steps, and she'll teach me how to do it in 2. And she will shave the learning curve for me. She will help me. She has systemized. We combined our companies this year to join forces. She was far more worried about joining companies than getting married because she was like, Sean, you are so not focused. I don't know if I want to combine forces with you. But I showed her that I was capable of it. But she holds me to such a beautiful standard. I had all these jokes last night that could have been really gross and disgusting. And she just pushed me to use my top shelf. Now, by all means, it's definitely not comedy for children. But she just pushed me to bring a level of intellect to my humor that I'm very grateful for. And she's such a beautiful human being. I love waking up next to her every morning. But then I'm gonna sneak one more in there, and that's my big brother. I call him that, but he's a dear friend, Christian Michelson. And Christian was the very first friend that picked me up and put me in his car and drove around with me. I was scared to drive with anybody but my parents until I was uh, 21. And he got me out into the world. There's no way I would have ever gotten laid and met girls and had a social life in my 20s if it wasn't for him. Uh, he is such a brilliant businessman. I've watched him go from signing up almost to be a garbage man, which is by all means a fine profession if that's what you want to do and that's what you feel you're called to do. But he had more in him, and I watched him go from that level to a multi-millionaire in business over the last, it's been since 1999, no, 2000, so 18 years that I've known him. And he's been there every time. He's introduced me to mind-altering substances that I make no apologies for taking, because they've had incredible effects on my ability to see what I'm capable of. If it wasn't for him, I'd still feel ugly. He challenged my insecurities, and he's like, why are you?" Because I looked up to him because he had all the girls, and I was like, how does he have that level of confidence? And he taught me. He taught me how to believe in myself. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have met Eben Pagan. If it wasn't for Eben Pagan, I wouldn't have met my wife, and I wouldn't have met Joe. All these people are interconnected, and I wouldn't have met any of them if it wasn't for Tony Robbins. So all of this comes full circle.
And just to come full circle again, I mean, Joe, if I had to give a list of my mentors, he would definitely be up there. And it's because of Joe that I met Tony and how I met you. So Joe really is the world's greatest connector.
Absolutely, he is.
Yeah. Okay, I have a few more questions for you, and then I want to be mindful of the time. Just stepping back for a second, you've mentioned a few times in this conversation that you're a professional listener. I know that technically you are a licensed therapist. So is there a difference between being a therapist and a listener?
Now, if you're let me just think about this for a second. Yes, there is. But if you're not a listener, you're not a good therapist. Because I think the client will tell you what they can't hear. The client they'll tell you what they can't see, smell, taste, because it's too close. But it's not even the words they're using, it's how they're speaking, how they're carrying their body language. I have this unique, so I'm a board certified clinical hypnotherapist and a doctor of clinical hypnotherapy. And that freaks some people out because hypnosis is still a very misunderstood facet of psychology. And some people love to shit on my degrees because they're like, oh, they're not accredited by the U.S. Department of Education. You're right, they're not. But I'm not going to go teach at Harvard, so shut the fuck up. I'm going to help people. And when I look at like what I've learned about therapy from my training, I would say a really good therapist is able to see what other people would overlook. I have this field of therapy that I call full immersion therapy. It's 12 hours. I learned about it from Dr. Matt James. They also call it breakthrough therapy. And it's a 12-hour process that I put people through. And I peel back the layers of their bullshit. And I help them see where they're leaving energy and love on the table. And there was this breakthrough session that I did, gosh, probably 10 years ago. And this client, I didn't feel like they were being that truthful with me, even though I just kept pushing on them and pushing them and pushing them. And they claimed that they got what they came for. Like, oh, Eureka, I got my breakthrough. And I almost bought their story. I almost bought that they got what they came for. And at the last hour, the 11th hour, literally the 11th hour, I asked them a question, and their knee bounced a little bit as they answered. But it wasn't like a normal bounce. It was like a leak of energy. It was like a discomfort that I'd been trained to spot. And they were talking. I said, shh, tell me, what happened there? And I pointed to their knee, and they're like, what? I go, what happened there? Why did that knee bounce? They're like, I don't know. Okay, who would know? And then I just kept re-asking questions, and I'm like, what were you thinking right before you said what you said that caused that knee to bounce? And I was like relentless, right? And out of nowhere, they're like, so I think I might be gay. And they weren't kidding. And they were married with kids. And I was like, so do you think you might want to talk about that? You might want to do something about that? And they were petrified because they'd never shared that with anybody. They had never admitted it to themselves. And it was amazing because had I ignored the knee bounce, we would have not come across something that is life changing to figure out, to admit, to come across. And some might be like, "Oh, Sean, you're gonna say every little twitch in the body means something?" No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying my intuition knew that something was up, and I followed my intuition, and I was right. They were hiding. They were smuggling their truth under a more appropriate, visibly okay solution to why they came for therapy, as opposed to really why they came for therapy. And let me tell you, it doesn't matter what your sexual preference is. You don't need a therapist to love yourself. You don't need a therapist to be kind to yourself. You don't need a therapist to work on yourself. In fact, I would love to be out of a job. I would love for every human being on this planet to write in their journal 3 pages a day about what they're feeling, about what they're experiencing, about what they want, about what they are upset with, about being honest with them and listening to themselves. If every human being wrote 3 pages a day, a lot of our problems on this planet would go away. And I would love that. But unfortunately, people don't journal 3 pages a day. Some people don't write 3 pages in their life of honesty. And so that's why my profession exists.
I think that's great. And I just wanted to point it out that you've been describing yourself as a listener versus a therapist. And I just thought that was so powerful and something that really goes to show how much of a true practitioner you are in what you do. Is like you don't even you refer to what you do as like one of the features or traits that's core to the job title versus just calling yourself the job title. And I think that really does demonstrate showing an expertise in a certain field.
So when I do that, well, thank you for acknowledging that. When I do that in speaking, I'm more than a speaker. I am doing 3 things as a speaker. I'm shifting emotions, I'm transferring ideas, and I'm helping people rethink their life. And so that comes through entertainment at times, that comes through education. Sometimes that comes from being the loving parent that some of the people in the audience never got to have, the big brother that they all wish they had had. I wear many hats as a speaker too, but I couldn't do what I'm doing as a speaker if I first didn't listen. The cheesy analogy or whatever they call it, like the metaphor is, you have 2 ears, 1 mouth, so listen twice as much as you speak. I struggle at listening, just so we're clear. I have a lot I want to say. I never shut up. But I force myself some days to listen, And I force my clients, or not, I won't use the force, but I encourage my clients to listen to themselves. I journal 3 pages a day, not perfectly, but most days I journal 3 pages a day so I can hear what I need to hear from myself. Where am I hurting? What does Sean need to let go of? What does Sean need to forgive himself of? What is Sean being like completely irritated by? And I'll tell you, if you, FYI, follow your irritations, when you follow your irritations versus just trying to get rid of the irritation, you will find your bliss. When I'm irritated and I dive deep in my journal on what is really underneath the irritation, I find nuggets of wisdom that set me free.
That's great. And I was just sharing with you before the podcast, I just got off of a 4-day meditation retreat. I don't know if that's ever been part of your practice, but I found it to be an awesome experience.
Oh, I love meditation. I enter my meditation through Kundalini yogic breathing.
Mm. Actually, one of the people there gave me some advice because I found it, the whole, just pay attention to your breath. Like after one breath, I'm already thinking about work or other things.
Yeah.
And no, like literally one breath, I'm already
I get it.
What's cool, what's going on with leverage that I should be working on. And she gave me this tip. I don't know if this is part of Kundalini or something you've ever tried, but she said to try breathing out of both your mouth and nose simultaneously, and then in through your mouth and nose simultaneously. And it's not natural at all. It's kind of like, uh, rubbing your head and tapping your.
Yeah. Is it even physically possible?
Yeah, I think I did it, and
I would want to know scientifically if it's possible, because
give it a try. But
yeah, I feel like one passage
really
shuts off for a second.
Yeah,
but it's probably so close that maybe. I mean, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I'd want to look into that because that fascinates me. I love that. Yeah.
Give it a try. But I started trying to do it, and I literally couldn't think about work. Couldn't think about work because all I was doing was thinking about that.
Yeah. I have a breathing coach. She comes over once a week, and some people be like, "Really, Sean? You paid somebody to learn how to breathe?" Yeah, you better believe it. It's the most important part of my day. And so we do this thing called the breath of fire. Tony Robbins does it in a lot of his events, where you kind of like pant like a dog through your nose.
Yep.
And you do this for like minutes. And after about 8 to 10 minutes, I'm in a blissed out, zoned space that no army can make me feel bad.
Right. Well, give it a try and let me know how you
I will.
like that. I found it to be super effective. Another cool thing that happened on this retreat that is going to be coming out later this year was virtual reality meditation, which was really fucking awesome. Wearing VR goggles and doing a meditation in VR. But anyways, I want to be respectful of your time. Where can people find out more about you, and what do you have coming up, like that maybe people could get involved if they want to see you in person or work with you?
Sure. So everything starts at what I call the Lucrative Society. It's a group that I have, and there's different levels. There's a free level that I recommend everybody go to, and go to SeanStephenson.com. That's SeanStephenson.com, and right on the main page it says there's like a place where you could put your name and your email address in. And then you have to follow the instructions if you want to get it. You have to do what's called double opt-in, meaning you type in your email, you hit send, and then you got to wait for the email to come up, and then you have to confirm it. If you're going to want something for free, that's all we ask, is that you got to confirm your email address so that the servers know that you're legitimately wanting to have this access. And you'll get access to my ebooks. I got an ebook called How to Stay Positive When Life Gets Crazy. I got audios and videos, all that for free on the free level of the Lucrative Society. You'll be able to learn from that experience about my live events. We do 2 live events a year on my side of the company. My wife, Mindy, does several live events on her side of the company. We hold retreats over in Africa. We do a lot of cool stuff. I announce everything through the Lucrative Society.
If you enjoyed this 2-part episode series, Becoming a Student of Your Own Pain, visit podcast.getleverage.com and download our 1-page cheat sheet outlining Sean's secrets for success and other main takeaways from this episode. Leverage is a premier outsourcing platform that gives you access to a team of skilled professionals. Our goal is to help people be their most efficient and productive selves. Focus on your unique ability and let us do the rest. Get Leverage.